Hello everyone, my name's Alex Wakefield and I was one of the participants in a road trip out to the Netherlands in the Perodua Nippa with my friend here, Richard Grant.
Hello.
We are currently sitting in a Rover R8 400, a car that was supposed to take this trip along with the Nippa, but we're going to describe to you what happened, how we ended up going in a slightly different convoy than planned, and also a little bit about our trip. So this is where our convoy started to form up. This is Glenn's Rover 620 Ti, and Richard, this is your Skoda. Tell us a bit about this car.
So this was slightly unplanned because my Rover, I decided after a period of being off the road, I'd spend the money, take my chances, get it ready to go to Holland, and that was the plan. Unfortunately, thanks to a very well-known courier company who will remain nameless, they decided that delivering parts within a time frame just isn't really for them. So that put us back by about 2.5 weeks. And then unfortunately we failed the MOT, needing some welding. Meantime, we got hold of this little Skoda that had come out of BCA auctions and gave it a clean, and massive leap of faith, off we go.
It was a really nice mix of cars, wasn't it? So whilst you've been watching, we've been joined by Steve and his Citroen XM. You could really hear the XUD engine tinkling away there. But we had a range of city cars, basic family hatchbacks, luxury, and a performance saloon, because that 620 is pretty quick, isn't it? This is the first part of our journey. We stopped off at the service station just outside the shuttle service to go and see the racing pink LDV Maxus that never seems to move, and we encountered some YouTubers, Instagrammers, and this wonderful Peugeot 309 green.
Yeah, this was, what was his name? I've forgotten now.
Justin.
That's him. Incredibly passionate young lad driving a 309 Peugeot. Very, very proud of clearly his first car. Incredibly passionate about being into cars and liking all sorts of stuff. When we got there, they were fornicating over a private plated Belgium registered BMW with Maison or Players or something on the plate, and then where they literally left them for dust as this convoy of tat arrives from England.
I think arriving at the hotel in Belgium was quite a major relief, wasn't it, really? Because I think we all started to feel that this was going to be possible, and we toasted our success before we headed off the next day. How were we feeling at this point by the end of the first day?
A little bit hot, a little bit tired, but yeah, I think we were keen and ready to go for the next day, weren't we?
And it was the hottest weekend of the year. This was earlier in May. None of us had any air conditioning. Even the higher spec cars amongst our convoy had any functioning air conditioning. I'm not sure about Alex's Lexus, which we'll see in a minute. I don't know if that was working. Probably was, because it's a Lexus, but certainly in my car and yours, the most basic versions of some basic cars. We had an early start heading over to the show on a Saturday morning. We had about 2.5 hours or so driving, extended a little bit by the slow pace.
Obviously, European motorways much easier to drive on, much clearer, much smoother, which probably made it a little less of a challenge than it perhaps would be here.
Yeah, but the good thing was, of course, fuel consumption was remarkable. Unless, of course, you're driving a Lexus LS, which was the last car to join our convoy, actually just on the Dutch border. This is Alex's Lexus. He was due to go in a Honda Prelude, but had some issues with his brakes. I don't suppose he was complaining that much. And hitting the Dutch border meant we didn't have too far to go, which is a blessed relief for me, because I was starting to develop severe back and neck pain on account of me driving a Perodua Nippa with plastic seats. Okay, probably worth having a little talk now about the show we were going to. How would you describe it for those who've never been?
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Nothing like anything you go to here, including Festival of the Unexceptional, for example, or others. None of the stuff that you just sort of think, oh, okay. So the Teslas, the AMG Mercedes, that sort of stuff. There was just none of that. It was really well organised. There was no pre-registration, there was no payment, there was no having to be there by a certain time. Nice and informal, exactly as I expected it to be honest.
I think we probably had a view of it being the Dutch. I think people described it as the Dutch Festival, the Unexceptional, but it wasn't, was it? I mean, there's certain similarities, but it has a higher concentration, slightly smaller in scale, but a higher concentration of talent.
Some incredible cars there, actually. Stuff that I expected to see in Holland. I don't know why I've come to that perception, but Mitsubishi Mirage. Can't remember seeing one of those for many years. Say at Malaga Saloon, ridiculous car, don't exist here. You name it, it was there, and it would turn up in the car park. It was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, you can probably get a view just from the camera. There you go. Look, a Renault 5 convertible. I don't know if someone's got the angle grinder out and made that themselves, or if that's an official thing. But we're going to take you on a tour of the show now. This is actually probably one of the sort of higher spec cars. Alfa Romeo there. This is a De Tomaso Longchamp, is that right? Longchamp. That tickled our fancy. It kind of ticks the box. Although it's an exotic brand, it's somewhat unloved and unappreciated. Looks like it's been designed with a set square, but what a thing.
Okay, so I think if you're just watching the footage now, this is a prime example of the kind of gems that were there at the time. This is a Fiat Ritmo, or Fiat Strada as it was in the UK. Can't remember the last time I saw one of those in the flesh, and there it is in all its absolute 80s glory.
Yeah, it was stunning, wasn't it? I mean, that kind of sums it up. But moving into the 90s, you can get a feel for the show, because there was some one make parking, but there was a real mix, wasn't there? There was this kind of thing next to that kind of thing, and you couldn't make any assumptions. You had to wander and explore the entire show.
This is one of my favourites, Mitsubishi Lancer Estate.
Yeah, the best tail lights ever produced. I remember getting very excited seeing these as a child. And I don't know if you could see next to it as well. There's the Renault Scenic Kaleido, which is just amazing. And then another weird and wonderful Renault here, the Avon Team, which is a favourite. And then I think this is an MRS, they called it. It's MR2 in France. Obviously, a little
bit awkward.
I need to explain.
So what we have here on this particular bit of footage, Citroen Visa, I think that is a Suzuki, and a Mark 1 System Porsche Ibiza, and a Reliant Kitten. Now I find that very strange, seeing a Dutch registered Reliant Kitten in Holland. I just find it odd. Here is a US spec Ford Focus. Some similarities on the interior, but the general car looks very different to the Focus that we all know.
Yeah, absolutely blooming dreadful. I mean, I'm guessing this is US forces based overseas or something, was responsible for that. Metallic Exploit yellow Punto here, but next to it, I think elephant in the room, there's a certain Talbot, which was getting everybody very excited. But anyway, yeah, unusual to see a low spec Punto with ginger caters in that colour.
Yeah, Talbot Tagora, absolutely lovely. It's an earlier one with the single mirror. Look at that interior. Show me that interior.
I don't think I've ever seen one in the flesh, and I'm a nerd. I would remember. I cannot recall ever seeing one. And this is another rarity in the Netherlands. Did you say this was the last one left?
That was what I was told. That's Holland's only Allegro estate.
Only one, Allegro 3 as well. I don't know if they all had a double headlight. That's completely original. There were some kind of more, I suppose, conventional things that you might expect to see, but they're all kind of fairly humdrum, weren't they? And talking of humdrum, what do we have here?
That'll be a Honda Quintet, which is a very, very rare car. Did weirdly end up with Rover badges, I think, I might be wrong, over in Australia at one point.
It did, yeah. It was sold as the Rover Quintet. And here's another thing that looks familiar but actually isn't.
So the Taunus Coupe, I believe.
Yeah, somewhere between a Mark III Cortina and a Granada Coupe, isn't it? It's interesting. They didn't sell here. I'm guessing maybe they were afraid it would take market share from the Capri. How much market share the Maestro commanded in the Netherlands, I can't imagine, but that was strange to see, wasn't it?
That's a well-known car, that one. I've seen that a few times across the UK at various events.
A few cars moving in and out. There's a fairly dynamic show, and in the background you can see the structure that forms the Lohmann's Toyota World, which is a museum, unsurprisingly, dedicated to Toyotas. It was a bit of a bonus, wasn't it?
It was a lot of fun, that one. I did really enjoy that.
Yeah, so this is it's a museum dedicated to Toyota, and such a mix of cars. Things that I'd never seen like this. I thought this was a Hummer. It's not. It's a Toyota Mega Cruiser. I don't think there's any similarity, but they look similar. But I don't think that the two share anything mechanically. But inside, a huge collection of Toyotas and Toyota brands from across several decades. Now, if you're a fan of mediocrity, the Toyota Corolla has to be the cherry on the cake, doesn't it? Absolutely.
And here we are with every generation of Corolla from the 60s onwards.
It was, this was, to try and give a dessert analogy, this is the trifle. This is absolutely everything with the cream right on the top. And in the right order. They've done it in chronological order, and just to give it a few chocolate sprinkles surrounding it, we've got some Exotica. This is the Toyota 2000 GT. Look at that, bright jam red. That one. I've only ever seen them in white before.
The kind of car you'd like to slide into your DMs on Instagram.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's one of those under the radar ones. You keep that tucked away, and not tell anyone about it if you got one of those, because you'd have people all over you, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. Well known Subaru Justy, the winner of Festival of the Unexceptional 2023.
Yes, yeah. I think it's red garnet or garnet nugget, I think, on Instagram. Apologies if I got that wrong. Yeah, here we go. Some more of the scenery. Waving to one of my new friends here. Just look how eclectic the collection of cars is at this show. Now, here's something that I would sell a kidney to do at some car shows: an opportunity to actually jump into one of the cars and give them a try. This was a Fiat 130 saloon. There was a whole lineup of other cars. We didn't realise till fairly late on that you could do this, did we?
No, it was all over by the time we got to that point. There was a Cadillac Alante as well.
Let's not forget, this wasn't just a car trip. This is a bit of a boys' weekend, and we harnessed forward motion and made our way over to an Airbnb. I think by this point we were getting a bit hot and bothered. Your Skoda was feeling a bit of strain, wasn't it, by this point?
Yeah, got a little bit stroppy in traffic, which added to the stress, but nothing like being stuck behind 20 kids on bikes.
No, and it didn't blow its lid at any point, so that was a good thing.
Fortunately, I did check the car over after our little stroppy temperature gauge, and I'm pleased to report there was no gunge of any type in the header tank or in the header cap, so all good there.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet. We managed to give the cars a good look over once we got to our Airbnb, and amazingly our Airbnb positioned about 10 minutes away from the show and had a driveway big enough to fit all of our cars, and surprisingly none of them dropped any oil overnight as far as I'm aware. Not the same could be said of their drivers, I think, who were dropping left, right and centre. But this is the Sunday morning. We've had a nice meal together. Some amazing desserts in the Netherlands. They're going to stay with me for a long time. I tried to get as much back as I could, but only limited space in the Nippa. This second day of driving was probably the biggest challenge, actually, because it was the longest continuous run, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think we were tired. Knew we had to go home. Knew we had a bit of a deadline and all the rest of it. But again, Dutch motorways fairly kind to us, to be honest, which was nice. Just it does make it a bit easier, and of course, European service stations are far better than the ones we get here. Fortunately,
better toys.
Yeah, better toys. No arcades though, which was disappointing because I did want to use up my leftover euros in Lucky Coin, but not this time.
And good ice cream as well, tucked in. So we pulled in for a stop. Didn't miss buying any chocolate in case it would melt all over the place. I didn't want puddles of sugary liquid all over the floor of my car. By now, I think we're all feeling a bit sorry for Glenn, weren't we? Because not only did he have to make it all the way back through the Netherlands, Belgium, France, into England, he then had to drive all the way back to his home out in far west Cornwall.
Go hard or go home, I think, was the rule there, because he knew he had to get home, but felt very guilty. By the time we've got home after 4 or 5 hours, he's still got that level of time to get back as well.
Yeah, but in fairness, he probably definitely the best car out of all of them to do it. I'd imagine the XM is pretty comfortable, but 197 horsepower or something at the flywheel when it was built in 1990s, but still, still functioning well as an executive express, and these sorts of roads absolutely perfect for that kind of car, as well maintained as it is by Glenn, who's a real pro.
So when we're at the terminal at Coquelles, getting ready to come back and inevitably queue for French customs because we can, that lovely little Simca, beg your pardon, was in the car park, and apparently he was being driven back up north, having been purchased in deepest Pyrenees district of French-Spanish border. So quite a mission, more than ours in fact.
Yeah, and it turns out we weren't the only shonky cars on here, but we thought we were pretty unique, but it turns out there was a returning group from a classic car trip, so we weren't even that special, but we did get a few stares, didn't we, as we made our way through the train, the last part of our journey. So coming to an end here, I think we were all pretty hot and bothered, but 524 miles round trip in the Nippa. My little hero. I have to say the car didn't miss a single beat. It was hot and it was uncomfortable, but I knew it would be, but nothing compared to Glenn's hike, his weekend 1,052 miles.